Oh, puppy. Hey, puppy. What's up, puppy? Hey, puppy.
She's very nice to you. Oh, you see it? She's very nice to you.
They're doing the same stuff again. Yep, the shoes in the same area. Still using it. Yep. And this is where they actually tried to attack Ash Bibra, the other person that I worked for, because they went to his place of work constantly trying to get angry at him for making more stuff than them. And then they asked, where did the people come from? They said, I don't know, we just use them and then steal their money if we needed to, or some other psychotic stuff. A huge amount of clients for web development, and their answer comes out to, I don't know what that means when he's a web developer, because it doesn't make sense if he makes it or not. Yep, and they said the complex where I was working looked perfect for them to go psychotic and lie to more people, because there was 2 psych wards or psych evaluation places right in the actual complex. Yep, and it was Jocelyn and Pink and one other person, I think it was Jesse J, that basically came into that place saying that they had to figure out something because their frat fans were going too big against one person, and it was possibly me, only because it would take me 2 places and have me look like I was going deranged, trying to figure out things that could possibly go wrong in their security, so that they would sing about the stuff incorrectly or give up, and then they'd get all their money back, and then they'd be able to respond by giving free performances to the people who thought that it was deranged enough to make themselves feel bigger than everybody else. Very, very deranged. Yep, and they said that if they performed with the security issues that were showing up, that they didn't care about the actual crowd, while they continually kept using the same situations over and over again to get free performances or other weird things, saying that it was too dangerous to perform their actual acts because they figured out something about their lyrics, told enough people, and tried to get them into trouble. Whoa, and the shoes showed up in the exact same area. Recorded. Told me not to pick them up because they said that it was something else, and plus I don't pick up just random shoes on the ground. Kind of mean. Some people are just drying out their shoes, or will even state that even if they were in the car that they ransacked through using a police officer, saying that it was their car. It's still looking great. stops in several different places. Go ahead. You're like blocking traffic. That's why you usually have to stop instead of using that one. Yep, and then Greenville Journal somehow got wrapped into some weird stuff that worked for them, and they kept saying that it's really weird. People don't know what they're saying, causing issues. See they going? Yep, there's people doing other things to make sure that they weren't getting wrapped into bad news or bad publicity stunts and a whole bunch of other stuff. Yep, and it was Frank, Kim, and John Magnahos that used to go to this church, and some weird stuff happened. Hollis. Hollis Mutatis Pride. And I forgot the other one was coat of arms. But some people took arms the wrong way. Yep, and he used Michael J. Fox incorrectly right over here along with Tyrese to get Tyrese into trouble for something that could not possibly been him because he was too afraid to go anywhere, period, because there was too many deranged things going on with him working for Coca-Cola and not actually getting paid for it, and he wasn't even yelling in public. They were just trying to ruin his actual contract signing. Yep, and their parents used to sleep over there along with Lisa, forgot the singer, and a couple other people that would perform for schools. Today going.
That's what I told her.
Hey, puppy. Let's have a great one. Yep. Yep, and the same people with weird answers about what I was doing. Yep, and I had to double check because I came up with something new, and so I had to actually go to the different schools and classrooms, which also included them forcing me to work for teacher created materials, for Ingrate, and a couple other places to figure out what was going on with the software that I was creating so that it wouldn't actually get worse. And I also had to do quote unquote show and tell for PowerPoint presentations to prove that I actually existed. And also had to line up with teleprompters and several different other things, which also included record keeping when I was in high school, because they said that that was the only answer that I gave them for them to actually, to quote unquote what they said, raise the bar, when they were actually saying that I couldn't get a college degree first and then become an engineer. I had to go into computer engineering, even with the chaotic stuff where other people's fans would show up to the place where I was going to school to disturb it so that it looked like no one knew anything, so they could join in on other stuff. Found the answer using, and it's weird because like they had a limit on posting, so I found a way for them to actually stream their media using various techniques, which included new encoders, because the encoders were believed to be too slow at a certain point to actually make any sense for being added to, for being added to certain engineering software that included song making as well as video editing and video creating. Stated that, not that if it wasn't patented, but if it wasn't theirs or an answer that was conglomerate, that it wouldn't make sense to go that big. Yep, with the stepdad that was in the music industry trying to figure out who messed up on believing that I would never make it or never have the ability to actually work for those companies, because, and then he would draw a blank saying that it was impossible for that to take place, for me to be dropped out of the sky every single time, and yet shows up on the actual videos regular basis. Yep, and then they tried to pull me away from that while still asking me questions about it, saying that it would just pop up out of the blue so that they could say that they knew, and they kept coming up with nothing, because I had already written several research papers in that building and several other buildings, and which also include those buildings over there, to state that the research that I was creating was confusing and complicated enough for people to not actually say that they knew it already, and it was just a little tiny push to the left or the right. Yep. And then the weirder one is that I was supposed to work on the hardware for the machine, which was actually a pretty cool one, because that one was a slower processing thing, which actually meant that it was easier than the software portion of creating a new type of quote-unquote thinking or realization of data. And they came up with a whole heap load of weird answers for that one. I used the weird data thing to try to figure out how to encrypt certain things while I was streaming so that it wouldn't actually break for various specific reasons. But people kept using it to hide their friends and other parcels or people to state that it was actually better now. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I worked on, what did I work on? I worked on the software for, what was it? It was for the hiking equipment that was outside of the gym at UCR, and they had gotten so angry stating that they didn't think of that one while I was still thinking about that one. I asked them a specific question, came up with a specific answer, made the software just to double check on something, and then asked if they wanted to play with it a little bit to see if it actually worked for them or not. They said that they already had the software, but to give it to them. So I gave them the software and it worked. Yep, the person right there. Gave them the software and it worked, and people came up with some deranged answers. Yep, and all this stuff was encrypted. And there was some other stuff that was actually lined up with it. That was in my freshman year. They said that I had jumped too far ahead. I didn't take those classes, so the software was theirs. And they went deranged because they continued to keep using it in several different places. Let's see, I have to speak about certain things, otherwise there's a preconceived idea about this person. Like we've talked numerous times before, and yet I have to record at this point because people don't believe that I exist. The same area where people said that Lucifer existed and we're giving him free money. He didn't want to. Same thing with the Romanian person that was my roommate. Saying sweet mate caused various weird answers where people constantly kept lying about what I was doing. Nothing. So I said I was recording a conversation about everything that was going on around me. There's people trying to make fake diaries to say that I had a dowry that was old. The exact same areas. This is the Church of Latter-day Saint. Somebody took me into there to say that I owed a dowry. They also misused Alicia Keys here as well as Aaliyah. Back when they had the train that went right down the street. There's actual video and photo of the actual train with the Pacific Bridge. And they kept saying they didn't mean Pacific Bridge, but specific bridge. They also tried to block people from using the actual buses like a lot. So it was very deranged. George Floyd wanted to work on a non-nuclear physics song and album, and yet people kept making up fake answers about how to fix it because they were just continued if he didn't die. They would have still been giving him counterfeit money, saying that it's because somebody didn't make it is your fault over and over again. Counterfeit money that couldn't have ever saved him. Same thing that they did with me with the mint coins. There were 1 and 300 gold that shop owners wouldn't take, which was cool. And yet they wouldn't call the police when I asked them to, even when I called the police, just to make sure there was 2 people and 2 subjects. And there was people following me around laughing about that situation, about where I got them from. They were recorded. killings that had escaped people from prison and jail.